October 31st, 2019 meeting, had the chance to review it. I ask if there are any requests for changes to the agenda. And if not, I request a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by, was that Dr. Oxendine?
Dr. Oxendine.
And second by Amy White.
Okay. Motion by Dr. Oxendine and second by Ms. White. Dr. Townsend Smith, will you call the roll to capture the vote?
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine.
Yes.
Ms. White.
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan.
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Great. Motion carries. We have an agenda, and we'll now proceed directly to our report from the FAST NC Steering Committee. As you recall, the FAST NC Steering Committee has resumed its work, and another application round was initiated. FAST NC Steering Committee accepted applications on October 18th and reviewed requests to respond to remaining Hurricane Florence and Dorian needs. I now call on former Superintendent Mr. Mike Ward, Chair of the FAST NC Steering Committee. Mr. Ward.
Good afternoon, board members. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you the requests of some of our colleagues in the areas impacted by Hurricane Dorian. We have a dozen applications before us today. The steering committee for FAST NC has reviewed these applications and made a recommendation concerning each. In addition, prior to the review by the steering committee, I spoke with each of these applicants individually. The vast majority, in fact, all but one of these applications originate from Hyde County, and more specifically, the Ocracoke School. There is one application from Dare County. Mr. Chair, would you like to proceed by district and handle the applications, the motion and action by district? So in essence, two motions and two actions, one for Dare and one for Hyde.
Yeah, that would be fine unless during the course of our discussions we realize that one of those needs to be pulled out and handled separately. But I think approaching it in the fashion you described is a good way to start.
Okay, all right. Let's proceed then with the Dare application. The application from Dare originates with Superintendent John Farley. We were in touch with the Dorian impacted areas in the wake of the storm and the board's decision to make FAST NC funds available to Dorian impacted areas. Initially, Superintendent Farley thought that there would not be a request from Dare County, but revised that within a few weeks of the storm. The Hatteras School media collection, he found, was significantly compromised by moisture and mold. And so they are seeking $25,000 as a partial, as a fund that will help partially rebuild the media center collection at Hatteras School. Mr. Chair, the steering committee recommends approval of this application for $25,000 from Dare County.
Any questions for Mr. Ward on this particular application? Okay. Go ahead and do the other.
I was thinking if sorry, if you would like to do this by county, that's the only application from Dare.
Okay. Okay. And is there a motion to approve the recommendation of the steering committee to grant the $25,000 to Dare County for Cape Hatteras Secondary School?
This is Amy White. I'll make that recommendation.
Okay, motion by Ms. White. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Duncan. Any discussion? Hearing none, Dr. Townsend Smith, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine.
Yes.
Ms. White.
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan.
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
The motion carries. Mr. Ward.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, there are 11 applications from the Ocracoke School. These are all teachers who are part of that school faculty, 10 teachers and one school counselor. The Ocracoke, the damage at Ocracoke, you're very familiar with, having had a presentation by Superintendent of Schools in Hyde County, Steve Basnight. The applications before you address a number of needs that you've had a chance to review. I'll recap those briefly, and then if the board, as Chair Davis said, if the board has any interest in pulling aside any of the applications for separate action and consideration, delighted to follow that lead by the board. The first application is from Ms. Austin. They're on the Ocracoke faculty, and she is requesting replacement of text resources that were lost and damaged as a result of the hurricane. The replacement resources for those that were lost actually have the added benefit of coming with some support materials, including internet resources that prove to be hugely beneficial on an island like Ocracoke. Are there any questions concerning this application? The committee recommends approval of Ms. Austin's request for $3,393.96. If there are no questions concerning the Austin application, the second application is from Ms. Burris, B-U-R-R-U-S-S, Burris, also the faculty. Just a couple of side notes. Ms. Burris is a veteran of 22 years at that school, teaches an elementary classroom, and has amassed significant resources for instruction over the course of that 22 years. I thought it was really telling when she said during the course of my conversation with her, all these wonderful resources I put together over the years, it was harder than losing my home. That's one seriously dedicated teacher. Anyway, she outlined items for use in an elementary classroom, as you see in the application, to the tune of $2,975.31. These were all items lost or damaged. And I should have prefaced all of these by saying that in each instance I posed the question of whether or not the items will be covered by insurance or other governmental resources, and the answer was consistently no. And I also posed the question, were these items that you're requesting items that were lost or damaged as a result of the storm? The answer was consistently yes. And the question about insurance and government funds is also certified by the superintendent's signature on each application. So the committee recommends the $2,975.31 from Ms. Burris. Any questions? The next application is from Mr. Chestnut. I'm sorry, board members, my computer's acting a little finicky right now. The request from Mr. Chestnut is for $1,538.18 of art supplies and materials that were damaged as a result of the storm. The steering committee recommends approval of the Chestnut application. Are there any questions concerning this one? Hearing Hearing none, I'll move on to the application from Ms. Daniels. Ms. Daniels has requested $10,821.28. She manages, or she is the instructor for the pre-K program on Ocracoke, and they have a lot of materials and equipment, especially that is specifically addressed to pre-K students, including a playground that is set aside particularly for pre-K students. Playground equipment, with the exception of one piece, was unusable, damaged and unusable after the storm. They were able to salvage one climber. They also have to have a refrigerator microwave in the classroom because the kids have to have lunch in her classroom. Anyway, the Daniels application is one that the steering committee also recommends for approval. Any questions about that application? The next application is from Ms. Garish. She actually had put together a fair amount of materials and resources through her own fundraising and lost much of her science resources and materials for her secondary science classroom. The secondary students are now at NCAT, the NCAT facility on the island. They won't be able to use Bunsen burners or other kinds of science equipment for the balance of the time that they're at NCAT. These science materials replace lab and other kinds of resources that she lost for the instruction in science. The steering committee recommends approval of the Garish application. Questions about this one? The next application is from Ms. Gaskins. Ms. Gaskins had actually boxed up stuff. I gather most had her materials, her resources, and thought they were out of harm's way, only to find that the water did reach them, and all of that stuff was wet and had to be thrown out. You can see in her application the kinds of things that she's asking for, including it's a fair number of elementary supplies and classroom materials and furnishings. She also has a microwave and small refrigerator that she uses for these elementary youngsters. And you'll recall that in the past we've replaced a number of elementary classroom carpets, those sectional carpets for seating for classroom activities for elementary kids. We, the steering committee, recommend that the board approve the application from Ms. Gaskins. The amount is $5,110.28. I want to jump back to the Burris application for just one comment. The application was for $3,000. The actual budget amount was $29,7531. So we did recommend approval of the $29,7531 for Burris, which is the actual amount in the budget detail. Any questions about Gaskins? Hearing none, the next application is from Guillory. And Guillory is the CTE instructor for the upper grades at the school. Mr. Guillory lost construction materials and tools as a result of the storm. He has asked for $3,356.80, which he says will cover only about a quarter of what's actually lost there. But that was what he submitted his request for. And he's eager to see these supplies come in. His students, for their next construction project, are actually going to try and put a family back in their home. there on the island, and hoping to do it by Thanksgiving, but if not, by the Christmas holidays. We recommend the approval of the application from Mr. Guillory. The next is there any discussion of the Guillory application? The next application is from Ms. Lewis. Ms. Lewis is a second grade teacher. She lost a number of resources for instruction that were water damaged, and basically she said at this point she has no elementary materials. They were all lost or damaged. She's requested $3,000. The actual budget detail adds up to $2,900. We recommend $2,900 in response to Ms. Lewis's application. Are there any questions about the Lewis application? Hearing none, the next application is from Ms. McKnight. She is the school counselor. Ms. McKnight has asked for furnishings and resources for the counseling area that were that she lost as a result of the storm, that were made unusable as a result of the storm. She's requested a total of $1,800 for these resources and furnishings. We recommend approval of the McKnight application. Questions? The next application is an application from Ms. Salerno. Ms. Salerno has requested $400 for resources in her classroom. She also, in our phone conversation, made reference to the fact that a number of the resources that she was asking to replace that were lost as a result of the storm, that these were things that over time she had purchased with her own funds. She understands that as a policy, materials and resources secured through FAST NC funds become the property of the school, and she's fine with that. And in fact, it stands to reason that some of it couldn't be anything other than school's property anyway, because she's asking for paint and other kinds of resources. Her request for $400 was recommended by the steering committee. Other questions about the Salerno application? Hearing none, the final application from our colleagues at Ocracoke was an application by Mr. Temple. Mr. Temple teaches English and film classes. He had a number of film resources that he used as an adjunct to both his English classes and for his film class, the film class that he teaches for high school students. These resources were damaged and made unusable by the storm. He'll use the $500 to purchase either DVDs or streaming rights to the films that he's replacing. The steering committee recommends approval of the $500 requested by Mr. Temple. That concludes the review of the applications from the Ocracoke School and from Hyde County, a total of 11 applications. And Mr. Chair, we recommend approval of all.
Thank you, Superintendent Ward. Is there a motion to approve these 11 applications for Ocracoke School?
I move to approve.
Okay. Motion by Dr. Oxendine. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Duncan.
With continuing thanks to the committee for the work that y'all have continued to do. And one question, how much money is available in total right now in the fund?
I'll turn that over to Dr. Townsend. One of the things that we looked at ahead of our meeting was whether or not we have the funds available to recover all requests if approved. Dr. Townsend?
Yeah, so, Vice Chair Duncan, we did have enough funds to cover the amounts that were granted today. We got in a check earlier this week, of a little over $450. We got another check today of about $2,500. And then we have, an association coming up who has a conference soon that will be, asking its participants to contribute to Fast and See. So as far as the monies that we had, the $63,000 or so that we had there, we have exhausted these funds with these requests. And then I will get a firm number for the group once I have a chance to circle around with finance about the monies that have come in late this week.
And,
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, the total request for the 12 applications that you had before you today is $59,849.82. Yeah, it uses a lot of what you have available, but leaves you a little bit to put to other purposes.
I suppose I should ask one other question. There was an additional fund that was administered through communities and schools, but also acting under the recommendations of the committee. Is that fund been exhausted, or does that fund still have remaining funding in it so far as we know?
The funds remaining at communities and schools total right at $80,000, just a little over. And you'll recall that in conjunction with this first round of Dorian applications, we also put out a final call for Florence applications. The funds over at communities and schools are Florence exclusive. They were donated specifically with Florence in mind, and so we routed all of the applications in the final round for Florence to communities and schools with recommendations from the steering committee, and if approved, those applications will use all but a few thousand of the remaining dollars at communities and schools.
Thanks for that report. Thank you.
Any other questions on the motion? Okay, before we vote, thanks for those questions, Vice Chair Duncan. Beyond the matters that are on our agenda today, I think we do need to be thinking about next steps. Unfortunately, there's probably going to be another event that comes our way. So I just ask for each board member to be thinking about what you think our next steps ought to be in terms of replenishing funds and being able to continue to meet the needs of our students. But at this point, we have a motion before us to approve the 11 applications from Ocracoke School. I'll call on Dr. Townsend Smith to call the roll to capture the vote.
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Very good. Motion carries. Any other questions from board members or before we
I
adjourn?
just want to, Chair Davis, I just want to continue the set of conversation that Vice Chair Duncan began 2 minutes ago, and just applaud Superintendent Ward for just such a fine way that you're approaching this and methodical. Indeed, it comes across the presentation each time we're on the phone. So many thanks to you and those who are assisting you in this effort.
Thank you, Dr. Oxendine. It's been a pleasure to do this, and I'm just honored that the board would entrust this work to us. And I commend Chair Davis, Superintendent Johnson, June Atkinson, former State Superintendent, Bill Kirk, former State Board Chair, and Henry Johnson, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Education, for their work on the steering committee. They put a lot of time into this.
This is
We certainly
Amy,
thank you.
all the sentiments that have been stated previously. No need to echo, but great job. What a privilege it has been to get to know you, Superintendent Ward.
It's my honor. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Ward. We hope to be connecting with you soon, maybe under even better circumstances. But regardless, we so value your continued service to our state. And at this point, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Ms. White, second.
Second?
Second by Vice Chair Duncan. Dr. Townsend Smith.
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Owens.